Welcome. Welcome to your 8 minutes Thriving Hard for Thriving Life Grief Tips. Let me ask you, do you ever know anybody in your life who you know can benefit from help, but the person is really not about to receive help or even hear anything about it? Many times we experience something like that with our loved one, in particular in this particular scenario with loved one who are grieving. Many people who come to me for consultations or workshops says, this is awesome informations. And yeah, I can benefit from help, but my loved ones really need this. What can I do? Because the person is not going to talk to anybody, not even talking to me much, or sometimes they're in complete denial. What can I do to help them? And I'm going to share with you a few tips that might be able to you might be able to apply and help your loved one if this is happening in your life, whether this is a friend or this is a family member. The first one is to what I call sneak it in. And sneak it in is as you learn more and more about grief. So for instance, the people who come to my workshops often learn about die from heartbreak is a true situations. We hear this romantic term many times and see movies and stories and so forth about them. But die from heartbreak actually does happen with people who experience very impactful grief. And as you learn this, as well as people learn that grief causes physical illness, and there are certain common physical illness that can come from grief. So as you learn this, and let's say you watch a movie where somebody died from heartbreak, then you can mention to the persons in a way that, oh my gosh, so that's really is what die from heartbreak, something that I just learned the other day or the other month. And so you can imply to the person, oh, that's what one way grief can manifest. And then let's say you have an acquaintance, both of you have an acquaintance or a neighbor who experience grief, and then start having one after situations or one after physical illness. And you say, yeah, I mean, it's really sad for them, but I learned that that's some things that happen, and of course do this in ways that apply the most. So for instance, somebody is experiencing grief, and then the blood pressure start going out of control, which is very common, and your loved one happen to have similar experience, you don't come to the loved one and say, hey, your blood pressure is out of control because of grief, but say, oh yeah, well, they're just experiencing this and then they're grieving, and I learn, and they show many studies that grief can cause your blood pressures to be out of control. And so you sneak it into this person's knowledge. So to say, you might, if you receive brochures or information, if you think they will look at it, put it in an area where they would find it. So that will be one. And then the second way to help them is to actually be the example. Many people come to me and they say, I can benefit from help, but the one who really needed help is my significant other, my parents, my whomever, and they're not about to hear this at all. What can I do? And I said, well, if you are going through similar experience and you having tough time yourself, why not we work with you? And as you improve in the next, and through grief coaching, you don't take months or years. This is typically they see a change in a matter of 6, 8, at the most 10 weeks. As you are better, they typically will get curious. And as that time, you can say, this is what I'm doing. And many times that happen. People who come to me, with but usually weeks or even a couple months, several months later, after their family member receive the help and recover from their grief and move forward and doing better, they come and say, so, we were in this spot just 2 months ago, and now my children or my parents or my significant others is in a very different situations. What are you doing? And so that's you can be the example and the motivator and the inspirations by receiving help and helping yourself first. And also with grief, depend on what you do, but with grief coaching, you receive the tools and skills to help the other person as well. So alongside you getting better, you also continue receiving the knowledge and skills to help your loved one. And then the other thing that you can also do to help with your loved one who does not want to, let's say they don't want to talk with you, is if you have a friend or a neighbor or somebody whom you trust and have the skill and the knowledge to help people with grief. And so not just everybody that you can trust, you can say, hey, as you can, as well that my loved one is having a tough time, but they're not wanting to talk to me. Would you mind helping them? And sometimes your loved one don't want to talk to you because they don't want to hurt your feeling. Many times these people come and say, it's not that I don't want to talk to my children or parents or significant other, but I feel things that I say might hurt their feeling and they don't want to hurt you. So have somebody else talk to them. And you can also offer alternates. So some people find counseling, therapy, has very strong stigma. They find that as weakness. And in that scenario, you want to offer different route. So for instance, many people come to me and say, oh, I will never do counseling or therapy. That's just because for weak people. And I said, okay. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. Would you consider taking a class on that teach you how to navigate grief better and help people in your life navigate grief better? It's a 6-module class. They usually offer 8 weeks, sometimes 10. It can be done in one-to-one or in group. It's just a class. And they say, well, a class? Okay, I can take a class. Take a class. Coaching is when you do grief coaching, not everybody has to do grief coaching, but grief coaching is actually taking a class. So somebody has a stigma, recommend for them to try a different route that is not in their stigma. And you can also depend on your relationship. The final tips is to depend on the person relationship. You can also share with them how you are concerned about them, but also the impact of their grief on other people. So for instance, you can share, listen, I'm concerned about you, but I'm also concerned about your parents because your parents really having a tough time with you having tough times. I'm more concerned about our children. And that might open their eyes. And so those are a few tips on how, excuse me, to be able to help people in your life who's not open to receiving help at this moment, not open to receiving help yet. If you have any questions or any concern, feel welcome to share them in the comment below, and feel welcome also to reach out to me directly, drtanforgrief@gmail.com. And if you find this video useful, feel welcome to share it with anyone that you would love, and also to remember to subscribe to the channel as well as to like the video so you can continue receiving updates. And this is Dr. BirgitteTan with Joyful Riches Beyond Grief. I care about you very much, and I look forward to see you again in the next video. Welcome to your 8 minutes Thriving Hard for Thriving Life Grief Tips. Let me ask you, do you ever know anybody